The council chamber stretched wide like an arena, built to make smaller species feel insignificant. Ji-won Park stood at the center platform, her dark suit crisp and professional despite the long wait. Above her, the alien delegates sat in their elevated seats, looking down at her like judges at a trial. Some whispered to each other. Others didn't even pretend to pay attention. She had practiced this speech for weeks. Every word mattered. Every fact was documented. But looking at their faces, she already knew it wouldn't matter. "Honorable delegates," Ji-won began, her voice steady. "I come before you to request intervention in the illegal seizure of 3 human colony worlds by the Vothric Empire. New Bizon Harmony Station and Terra Nova were settled legally under the provisions of the Settlement Act of 2401. The Vothric ignored all legal channels and claimed these worlds under what they call administrative necessity. A Vothric delegate, a massive creature with scales like armor plates, made a rumbling sound that might have been laughter. He didn't even stand to respond. Ji-won continued. This is the 3rd time in 5 years that human worlds have been taken. Each time, we have followed proper procedures. Each time, this council has refused to act. We are asking again, formally, for justice under galactic law." Council of Ren of the Dominion, a being that looked like a cross between a mantis and a tree, finally spoke. His voice came through a translator that made it sound cold and bored. "Ambassador Park, the Vothric Empire has explained their position. Those worlds were not being efficiently utilized. They have been placed under more capable administration. This benefits the galactic economy. Those worlds had 2 million human colonists," Ji-won said, keeping her anger locked down deep. "Colonists who are now being used as forced labor." A Kelfin delegate hissed something that the translator rendered as laughter. Several others joined in. The sound echoed through the chamber. Up in the observation gallery, Captain Doin Choi watched through the transparent wall. His hands gripped the railing so hard, his knuckles turned white. Next to him, his security officer leaned close. "Sir, should we stand down?" Doyen said quietly. "Let her finish." Down below, Vren was speaking again. "Ambassador, humanity has been part of the galactic community for 3 centuries. In that time, you have been given many opportunities. But you must understand your position. Younger species must learn to accept the guidance of their elders. Perhaps if humanity had been more cooperative, more willing to contribute, you would not face these difficulties." "We have contributed," Ji-won said. "Human engineers maintain 70% of the FTL communication network. Human doctors developed a cure for Kelthian plague. Human scientists—" Yes, Ren interrupted. "You have made yourselves useful. That is appreciated. But usefulness and political authority are different things. This council has reviewed your petition and finds no grounds for intervention. The Vothric actions fall within acceptable parameters of territorial adjustment." The vote was quick. 53 against intervention. 5 abstentions. 0 in favor. Ji-won stood there for a long moment. She had expected this, but feeling it happen was different. Behind her professional mask, something cold and hard settled into place. "Thank you, Council of Ren," she said. Her voice was different now, colder. "The United Nations of Earth recognizes this council's decision." She reached into her jacket and pulled out a datapad. Several alien delegates tensed, but she simply tapped the screen and began to read. "By the authority granted to me by the UN Security Council and the Colonial Assembly, I hereby announce the following. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all treaties with the Galactic Council and its member states. All trade agreements are void. All scientific exchanges are terminated. All diplomatic relations are severed. Human personnel will evacuate all galactic facilities within 72 hours. Any alien vessels or personnel in human space have the same time frame to depart. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. Vren's translator screeched, trying to keep up with his angry words. Jiwan ignored them all. She turned and walked toward the exit, her steps echoing on the metal floor. Du Yun met her at the gallery door. "The ships are ready, Ambassador." "Then let's go home, Captain." Across the station, in docking bays and offices and research labs, humans began to move. They had been preparing for this for months, ever since it became clear the Council would never help them. They moved quickly and efficiently, taking only what belonged to them. In the station's operations center, the Kelfian supervisor watched in confusion as human technicians shut down their workstations. "What are you doing? You can't just leave. These systems need constant monitoring." The senior human tech, a woman named Haun Lim, smiled politely. "I'm sure you'll figure it out. The manuals are in the database." She didn't mention that the manuals were incomplete, missing all the small tricks and workarounds that kept things running smoothly. Admiral Hyun Woo Nam watched from the bridge of the carrier, indomitable as the last human shuttle departed the station. Around him, captains reported in from across the galaxy. Every embassy, every outpost, every human presence in alien space was packing up and leaving. His communications officer handed him a secure tablet. One message, direct from Earth Command. Just 2 words: Nightfall active. Yunwoo permitted himself a thin smile. The aliens thought they were so clever. They thought humans were weak because they talked instead of fought. They were about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. "Set course for home," he ordered, "and activate all stealth reconnaissance units. I want eyes on every major alien installation within the month." Behind them, the Galactic Council station grew smaller in the view screen. The aliens were still arguing, still shouting, still not understanding what they had just done. They would understand soon enough. 3 months had passed since the humans left, and Captain Trell was starting to worry. The Kelfin merchant had made a fortune trading with human colonies for 20 years. Their markets were reliable, their payment always on time, and they bought things other species considered worthless. But now, silence. He sat in his ship's command chair, staring at the view screen. The boundary of human space looked the same as always. Nothing dramatic. No warning buoys or weapons platforms. Just empty space and distant stars. But 3 of his ships had crossed that invisible line in the past month, and none had returned. "Sir, should we send another probe?" his first mate asked. "No," Trell said, his translator rendering the clicks and whistles into flat galactic standard. "No more probes. No more ships. Mark human space as restricted and send word to the consortium. We're going around. On the planet that used to be called New Bizon, Governor Vec had different problems. The Vothric occupation force had taken the world easily enough. The human colonists couldn't fight an Imperial warship. But holding the planet was proving harder than expected. The terraforming systems were breaking down. Temperature regulation in the dome cities was becoming erratic. The massive fusion reactor that powered the main settlement kept having minor failures that required constant attention. And the humans who were supposed to fix these things weren't cooperating. Vec stormed into the technical center where 2 human engineers worked. Minho Kang and Selman Lee looked up from their consoles with blank, tired expressions. "The reactor efficiency is down another 5%, Vec growled, his voice like grinding rocks. "Fix it." Minho exchanged a glance with Selman before answering. "We're trying, Governor. The system is very complex. We think maybe the plasma containment field needs recalibration, but we're not entirely sure. It could take weeks to diagnose properly." "You maintained this reactor for years before we arrived," Vec said. It never had problems then. Soman shrugged. We had a bigger team before, and access to replacement parts, and the diagnostic equipment that your soldiers took to sell. She said it simply, without emotion, just stating facts. Vec wanted to hit her. He had hit human workers before, trying to motivate them. It never worked. They just moved slower afterward, made more mistakes. One engineer he'd beaten too hard had died, and the others had stopped working entirely for 3 days until he backed off. Just fix it, he said, and left. Behind him, Minho and Soman waited until the door closed. Then, Minho pulled out a hidden data pad and checked the countdown. 2 more weeks until extraction. They just had to keep sabotaging things subtly until then. Light years away, Council of Ren read the intelligence reports with growing unease. The humans had been quiet. Too quiet. No angry messages. No threats. No attempts at communication at all. When the Council had sent an envoy ship to Earth with an offer to discuss terms, the ship had crossed into human space and simply vanished. No wreckage. No distress call. Nothing. What do we actually know about human military capability? Vren asked his intelligence chief, the smaller being shuffled through data files. Not as much as we thought, Counselor. The humans always claimed their fleet was small and primarily defensive. We believed them because we saw their ships. Cargo vessels, science ships, a few light cruisers. Nothing impressive. And now? Now we think those were the only ships they let us see. Our best analysis suggests they have stealth technology far beyond our estimates. The defensive installations we knew about appear to have been decoys. And there's another problem. What? Dr. Jane Song. He was one of the leading researchers at the Dominion Science Institute. Worked on advanced physics. He disappeared the day the humans withdrew, along with all his research data. Vren felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. How many human scientists were embedded in our institutions? Hundreds, Counselor. Maybe thousands. And they're all gone now. Across the galaxy, small failures were adding up. The FTL communication network that connected thousands of worlds started having errors. Messages arrived garbled or not at all. Technicians found the hardware working perfectly, but something in the software protocols was degrading. On Keltham Prime, medical facilities discovered their pharmaceutical synthesizers were producing medications with reduced effectiveness. The formulas looked correct in the database, but something was wrong. Patients who should have recovered quickly weren't responding to treatment. A research team finally discovered the problem. The synthesis algorithms had been optimized by a human xenochemist named Dr. Rena O 15 years ago. She had made thousands of tiny adjustments to improve efficiency and purity. Those adjustments had never been properly documented. The Kelphans were using the original, unoptimized formulas and didn't even realize it. Fleet. Commander Kerr of the Vothric Imperial Navy faced the worst crisis of his career. 17 warships sat in dock, useless. Their power systems were malfunctioning in ways that made no sense. Diagnostics showed everything working perfectly, but when they tried to engage the drives, nothing happened. The human technician who had maintained the fleet, Yoonji Choi, had disappeared 3 weeks ago. Kerr's own engineers had been studying the systems ever since, and they were baffled. The technology wasn't beyond them. They understood how it worked, but there were layers of complexity, small interconnected systems that all had to work together perfectly. One tiny miscalibration anywhere in the chain, and the whole thing failed. It's like a puzzle where every piece looks right, but they don't fit together anymore, his chief engineer reported. I think the human was making constant minor adjustments that kept everything balanced. Without her, it's falling apart. Kerr wanted to scream. He settled for smashing his fist into his desk. Find her. Search every human district in the Empire. Sir, All the humans are gone. Every single one disappeared last week. We think they were extracted somehow, but we don't know how. No ships were detected. Wren decided they needed to show strength. He authorized a military expedition. 12 warships under Admiral Corvin would enter human space, make contact by force if necessary, and demand negotiations. The humans couldn't hide an entire civilization forever. The fleet crossed the border in tight formation. All sensors active, broadcasting on all frequencies. 2 days later, Wren received a fragmentary message. Just a few seconds of audio, badly distorted. Corvin's voice, panicked in a way Wren had never heard from the veteran admiral. They were already here. They were always here. How did we not? Then nothing. Silence. The fleet was gone. 8 months after the humans withdrew, the galaxy started to break down in ways no one could have predicted. The FTL jump gates that connected major trade routes began drifting out of calibration. Ships that used them arrived light years off course or didn't arrive at all. The Kelthans shut down 3 gates after a cargo ship was torn apart during transit. Engineers swarmed over the remaining gates, trying to understand what was happening. Chief Engineer Ralph stood in the main control room of the Central Communications Array, looking at screens filled with error messages. He had been avoiding this conversation for weeks, but his superiors were demanding answers. "Tell me the truth," the consortium director said over the video link. "Can we fix this?" Ralph's shoulders sagged. "Eventually, yes. We understand the technology. We helped build it. But there's a problem. The humans didn't just help design these systems. They maintained them for decades. And they never documented all the small fixes and adjustments they made." "What do you mean?" "I mean that every complex system develops quirks over time. Things that don't work exactly the way they were designed, but still work if you know how to handle them. The humans knew. They kept everything running smoothly, and we never noticed because there were no problems. Now they're gone, and we're discovering that 60% of our critical infrastructure has these hidden dependencies." The director was quiet for a long moment. "How long to fix it?" "Years, maybe decades. And that's if we don't have any catastrophic failures in the meantime." On Vothric Prime, Fleet Commander Kerr had given up trying to fix his warships. Instead, he was reading reports that made his blood run cold. Across the Empire, military installations were experiencing similar problems. Weapon systems, shield generators, sensor arrays, all maintained by humans who were now gone, all degrading in subtle ways that were hard to diagnose. But the report that terrified him most came from the logistics division. The Vothric military used predictive algorithms to manage supply chains. Food, ammunition, spare parts, everything. Those algorithms had been designed by a human named Sang-Hoon Park 30 years ago. They worked so well that the Vothric had expanded them to cover the entire imperial economy, except the algorithms weren't working anymore. Supplies were being sent to the wrong places. Warehouses were running empty while other locations had excess. The predictions were wrong. And when Vothric programmers tried to fix the code, they discovered it was far more complex than anyone had realized. Sang-Hoon Park had spent 3 decades refining it, adding layers of adaptive learning and error correction that weren't in any documentation. Without him, the Vothric economy was slowly becoming paralyzed. The Kelthans faced an even worse crisis. Dr. Taijin An had been a xenobotanist, a scientist who studied alien plants. 20 years ago, he had helped optimize the agricultural systems on Kelthan colony worlds. Simple improvements, everyone had thought. Better crop rotation, improved soil treatment, more efficient irrigation. But as the months passed after the humans left, crop yields began to drop. First by 5%, then 10, then 20. Kelthon agricultural experts examined everything. The soil was fine. The seeds were good. The weather was normal. But the plants weren't growing the way they should. A young Kelthon scientist named Threx finally figured it out. The optimizations weren't simple at all. Dr. An had created a complex, adaptive system that adjusted itself based on thousands of environmental variables. It needed constant small corrections to remain balanced. Without those corrections, it was falling apart. Threx presented his findings to the Agricultural Council. The system is like a bicycle. It only stays balanced if it keeps moving and someone steers it. Dr. An was steering. Now no one is, and we're falling over. Can we fix it? We can try to recreate the original, simpler system. But that will take years, and crop yields will be much lower. We might be looking at famine on 17 colony worlds. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Council of Ren looked around at the half-empty chamber. Many species had sent no representative. Others had sent junior diplomats instead of their senior counselors. Everyone was dealing with their own crises. We need to make contact with humanity, Ren said. We need to negotiate their return to the galactic community. A Dominion counselor spoke up. We tried that. Our envoy never returned. Then we try again. We send multiple ships. We broadcast on all frequencies. We make it clear we want to talk. And if they still ignore us? Someone asked. Ren had no answer. The humans had always been eager to talk before. They had been patient, diplomatic, always willing to negotiate. But that patience had run out, and no one knew what to do with humans who wouldn't talk. In a dark room on Earth, Admiral Himu Nam watched tactical displays showing the state of the galaxy. His intelligence network had never stopped operating. Small stealth drones, nearly invisible, watched every major alien installation. Human agents who had been planted years ago sent regular reports. He knew about the infrastructure failures. He knew about the food crisis. He knew everything. His second-in-command, Commodore Unisong, stood beside him. The Kelthons are preparing another delegation. They want to discuss agricultural assistance. Let them wait, Hyunwoo said. They're not desperate enough yet. Sir, people are going to die. The famine on their colony worlds will kill thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Do you know how many humans died in forced labor on Vothric worlds? How many died when the Kelthons seized our medical shipments during the plague outbreak 15 years ago? How many died when the Council refused to help evacuate New Dawn before the solar flare? Yuna was quiet. She had been at New Dawn. She had watched helplessly as the evacuation ships were turned away because they didn't have proper galactic permits. We're not doing this out of cruelty, Hyunwoo continued. We're doing this because they need to understand. Words didn't work. Diplomacy didn't work. Now they'll learn the hard way. On Karshan 7, the former New Bizon, Governor Vec was losing control. The fusion reactor had finally shut down completely. Emergency power was keeping life support running, but barely. The Vothric garrison was getting restless. Some were talking about abandoning the planet. Vec went to check on the human engineers one more time, hoping to threaten them into cooperation. The technical center was empty. Minho Kang and Somin Lee were gone. So were all the other human workers. He ran to the detention center where human civilians were held. Empty. Every single human on the planet had vanished overnight. His communicator buzzed. One of his officers, voice shaking. Governor, you need to see this. Vec rushed to the command center. On the screen was a message. Text only. Broadcast on all frequencies. To the Vothric occupation forces on Karshan 7. You have 48 hours to evacuate. After that time, all life support systems will fail completely. We suggest you leave now. This is your only warning. Find them. Vec screamed. Find the humans. They must be hiding somewhere. But deep down, he knew the truth. The humans weren't hiding on the planet. They had been extracted somehow, right under his nose. And if they could do that, if they could remove thousands of people without being detected, then what else could they do? 14 months after humanity withdrew from the galaxy, the Vothric Empire was collapsing from within. Emperor Vaknath sat on his throne, reading reports that all said the same thing. Rebellions on 17 worlds. Military units refusing orders. Governors abandoning their posts. The empire he had spent his life building was crumbling, and he couldn't stop it. The conquered worlds had realized something important. The empire couldn't protect them anymore. Half the fleet was grounded with technical problems. Supply chains were broken. And the humans, who everyone had dismissed as weak, were somewhere out there in the dark, watching, waiting. Governor Vec had evacuated Karshan 7, barely escaping before the life support systems failed completely. He brought news that terrified the imperial court. The humans had extracted thousands of their people from under heavy guard without being detected. They could go anywhere, do anything. How? The emperor demanded. How did they get past our sensors? Vec had no answer. No one did. Far from Vothric Prime, in the deep black between stars, Commodore Diane Choi stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Whisper. Around him, holographic displays showed the locations of 73 other stealth vessels, all of them invisible to alien sensors, all of them carrying special forces teams. Operation Reclamation begins in 6 hours, he said to his crew. We're taking back New Bizen first. Intelligence reports the Vothric garrison has been reduced to a skeleton crew. We go in quiet, we hit the military installations, and we secure the city before they know we're there. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Kiao Minhan, highlighted targets on the display. The garrison headquarters here, the communications array here, the planetary defense grid here. Small teams, surgical strikes. We shut down their ability to respond before they can call for help. Doyen nodded. And if they surrender? We accept it. Admiral Nam's orders are clear. We're not here for revenge. We're here to reclaim what's ours. Across human space, similar conversations were happening on dozens of ships. The galaxy thought humanity had only a small fleet because that's all they had ever seen. The truth was different. Humanity had spent centuries developing stealth technology, perfecting it, making ships that could slip past any sensor. They had built smaller, but they had built smart. Admiral Hyun-Woo Nam coordinated everything from the command ship Defiance, hidden in the Kuiper belt of a dead star system. Around him, his staff worked quietly and efficiently. This operation had been planned for years, refined and practiced until every detail was perfect. First wave reports ready, his operations officer said. Send the go order. On Karshan 7, now empty of its Vothric occupiers, human ships appeared without warning. They didn't decloak dramatically. One moment the sensors showed empty space. The next moment, ships were already in orbit, already deploying repair teams and engineers. The city of New Bizen came back to life as power was restored and life support reactivated. On Harmony Station, the Vothric garrison commander woke to find armed humans in his command center. He reached for his weapon, but Lieutenant Yemin-Se shook his head. Don't. We've already disabled your communications and weapon systems. Your ships can't launch. You have 2 choices. Surrender peacefully, or we breach this station and take it by force. The commander looked at his tactical display. It showed nothing. But the humans were here, which meant they had gotten past everything. He dropped his weapon. Across 12 worlds, similar scenes played out. The Vothric forces were overwhelmed before they could respond. Some fought and were destroyed with precision that shocked them. Others surrendered immediately. By the end of the first day, humanity had reclaimed 9 colony worlds. The Galactic Council finally realized what was happening when refugees from Vothric space started flooding into neutral territory. The stories they told were all the same. Humans appearing from nowhere. Overwhelming force. Complete tactical superiority. Council of Ren tried to assemble a coalition fleet to respond. He sent messages to every member species, calling for unity against what he termed human aggression. The responses were not what he expected. The Kelthans refused, saying they couldn't spare ships during the famine crisis. The Dominion sent a polite reply that basically said they weren't getting involved. Smaller species either ignored the message or sent back angry responses about how the Council had caused this mess. Then things got worse for Vren. Much worse. Agent Sujin. Han had been working for human intelligence for 30 years. She had access to the Council's secure networks, access to files that were supposed to be hidden forever. She had been collecting information quietly, patiently, waiting for the right moment. That moment was now. She uploaded everything to the Galactic Communications Network. Every piece of blackmail in Vren's files. Every corrupt deal. Every war crime covered up by Council members. The files were encrypted in a way that made them impossible to delete or suppress. Within hours, every major media outlet in the galaxy had copies. The scandal was massive. It turned out that Vren had been taking bribes from the Vothric for decades. The Kelthan Councilor had authorized the seizure of human medical supplies during the plague, specifically to drive up prices for Kelthan pharmaceutical companies. The Dominion leadership had known about illegal weapons, testing on civilian populations, and had buried the evidence. The council meeting descended into chaos. Member species started withdrawing. Some counselors were arrested by their own governments. Vren himself fled Dominion space, trying to reach a safe haven that no longer existed. The Kelthan Consortium faced its own crisis. The famine was spreading, and now their leadership was discredited. Colony worlds were breaking away, trying to make their own deals with humanity. The central government was powerless to stop them. Kelthan colony called New Kelth sent a desperate message directly to Earth. They offered complete autonomy for any human settlement in their territory, full rights and protections, and complete control over their own agricultural systems. In exchange, they begged for help with their failing crops. Admiral Hyun-Woo Nam read the message and smiled. Send a delegation. Medical supplies, agricultural experts, everything they need. But they sign a treaty first. Full recognition of human sovereignty. War crime tribunals for anyone who participated in the seizure of our worlds. And they pay reparations. They'll agree to anything right now, sir, his aide said. I know. That's why we're being generous. We're not monsters. We just needed them to understand what happens when they treat us like we don't matter. On Vothric Prime, Emperor Vaknath received a message. It came through every communication system simultaneously, impossible to block or ignore. The message was simple. To the Vothric Empire. You have 7 days to evacuate all human colony worlds and return all human citizens taken as forced labor. After 7 days, any Vothric presence on human worlds will be considered an act of war. We will accept your surrender and discuss terms, or we will take all worlds by force and accept no surrender afterward. Choose wisely. The Emperor looked at his military advisors. Can we fight them? The head of his fleet shook his head. Majesty, we don't even know where they are. Our ships can't detect them. Our weapons can't hit what we can't see. And even if we could fight, half our fleet is still grounded with technical problems. Then we have no choice. The evacuation began immediately. Vothric forces abandoned human worlds in a panic, taking only what they could carry. Some units fought when human ships appeared to ensure the evacuation was complete, but these battles were one-sided. The humans had been watching for so long that they knew every defensive position, every weapon placement, every tactical plan. In one final message to the galaxy, Ambassador Jiwan Park announced that humanity would hold a formal conference in 30 days. All species were invited. The terms would be presented then. Negotiations would be minimal. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't asking for a seat at the table anymore. They were setting the table. 2 years after humanity broke off all diplomacy, the galaxy looked very different. The conference station floated in neutral space, built specifically for this meeting. It wasn't the Grand Council chamber, where the aliens had once looked down on human delegates. This was a simple, functional design. Human design. Ambassador Jiwan Park walked through the corridors with Admiral Hyunwoo Nam on her left and Minister Sungin Beek on her right. Behind them came a small security detail, though everyone knew the real security was the fleet of stealth ships watching from the dark. The conference chamber was already half full when they arrived. Jiwan noted who was there and who wasn't. The Kelthans had sent their senior counselor, looking thin and tired. The famine had been hard on them. The Vothric sent a minor official, their emperor too humiliated to attend personally. The Dominion sent no one. Their government had collapsed in the scandal. Dozens of smaller species filled the other seats, species that had never mattered much to the old council. They were here because they wanted to matter now. Councillor Vren was absent, of course. He was in a Kelthan prison, awaiting trial for corruption. His replacement, a younger being named Tresh, sat quietly in a corner, trying to look small. G1 took her seat at the central table, not at the bottom of an arena, looking up, at the same level as everyone else. She let them wait in silence for a full minute before speaking. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice calm and professional. "We're here to discuss the new reality of galactic relations. I'll be direct because everyone's time is valuable. Humanity is presenting the following terms. These are not negotiations. These are notifications of what will happen." She activated a holographic display. The first item appeared. First, all human colony worlds are recognized as sovereign human territory. Any previous claims by other species are void. Any future claims will be considered acts of war. No one objected. The Vothric official looked like he wanted to speak, but thought better of it. Second, the Vothric Empire will pay reparations totaling 5 trillion galactic credits over the next 20 years. This money will go to rebuilding human colonies and compensating victims of forced labor. The Vothric official went pale, but he nodded. His empire had no choice. They were barely holding together as it was. Third, all human citizens will have full rights and protections in any territory where they choose to live or work. Any species that harms human citizens will face immediate sanctions, including withdrawal of all human technical support. The Kelthan counselor shifted uncomfortably. That last part was the real threat. Everyone in the room knew their technology depended on human knowledge. Fourth, humanity will occupy 3 permanent seats on a reformed Galactic Security Council. This council will have actual authority to intervene in territorial disputes and will operate on a majority vote system, not consensus. Jiwan paused, looking around the room. That's the outline. Minister Beek will provide the detailed terms. You'll have 72 hours to respond. Species that agree to these terms will maintain full access to human technology and expertise. Those that refuse will be cut off completely. She sat back and let Sungun take over. He was good at the details, explaining exactly what each term meant, what the timeline was, what the consequences would be. The Kelthan counselor raised a trembling hand. "Ambassador Park, my people are dying. The famine is getting worse. We need help now, not in 72 hours. Jiwan's expression softened slightly. "Counselor, we're already helping. Human agricultural experts are working on 17 Kelthon worlds right now, teaching your people how to stabilize the systems. Food shipments are arriving daily. We started helping the moment you asked properly and offered fair terms. Then why these harsh demands? Why punish everyone? These aren't punishments, Ji-won said quietly. These are the terms we should have had from the beginning. Equal treatment, fair compensation, mutual respect. We tried asking nicely for 300 years. You laughed at us. Now we're not asking. Later, in a private room, Admiral Hyun-woo Nam met with his senior staff. Commodore Doyen Choi presented the security assessment. All human colonies are secure. We've established defensive networks that would make any invasion extremely costly. The stealth reconnaissance net is fully operational. We have real-time intelligence on every major military installation in known space. And our fleet status? Hyun-woo asked. We have 200 active stealth ships, 50 heavy carriers, and 300 support vessels. But more importantly, we have technological superiority in every category that matters. The aliens are still trying to understand what we did to them. Hyun-woo nodded. Keep it that way. I want our actual capabilities to remain unclear. Let them think they know what we have. The uncertainty is as useful as the weapons themselves. His intelligence chief, Sujin Han, spoke up. Sir, we're getting reports that some species are trying to develop stealth technology based on what they saw during the campaign. Let them try. They're working from external observations. They don't understand the underlying principles. By the time they figure it out, we'll be 3 generations ahead. Over the next 72 hours, the responses came in. The Kelthons agreed immediately, signing everything without changes. They were desperate, and they knew it. Smaller species followed quickly. They had never been part of the old council's power structure anyway. The new terms actually gave them more voice, not less. The Vothric took the full 72 hours, but they agreed. Their emperor sent a formal apology along with the acceptance. It was probably written by advisors, but it was still more than humanity had ever received before. A few species refused. The Torvik hierarchy, which had always been arrogant, rejected the terms entirely. They claimed humanity was overstepping and demanded a return to the old system. Minister Sung-yoon sent a simple reply. Your rejection is noted. All human technical personnel will withdraw from Torvik space within 48 hours. All human design systems will be locked to prevent continued use. Good luck. 3 months later, the Torvik were begging to reconsider. Their infrastructure was collapsing just like the Vothric and Kelthon systems had. Sunyin let them wait an extra month before accepting their surrender. 1 year after the conference, the new Galactic Security Council held its first session. Ji-won Park sat in one of the 3 human seats, with Admiral Nam and Minister Beek beside her. Around the table sat representatives from 20 other species, each with equal voice and equal vote. The first case brought to the council was a territorial dispute between 2 minor species. In the old system, it would have been ignored unless one of the major powers had an interest. Now, the council reviewed the evidence, heard both sides, and issued a binding ruling. Both species accepted it. This is how it should have always worked, the Kelthon counselor said quietly. Ji-won nodded. Yes, it should have. On New Bizen, now restored and growing again, Captain Doyen Choi walked through the streets of the rebuilt city. Children played in parks. Markets were busy with trade. Everything looked normal, peaceful, safe. His first officer, Lieutenant Yuna Kim, walked beside him. Sir, do you think they've learned? The aliens, I mean. Do you think they understand now? Diane looked up at the sky, where invisible to the naked eye. Stealth satellites watched and listened and tracked everything within light years. Some of them have learned. Others will need more time. But it doesn't matter if they truly understand or if they're just afraid. What matters is that they know the rules now. Will we ever trust them again? Trust is earned, Diane said. They broke it. They can rebuild it. But it will take time. Generations, maybe? Until then, we stay vigilant. In a school on New Bizen, a teacher named Minseo Park taught a class of young children. One student, a bright boy named Junho Lee, raised his hand. Teacher, my grandmother told me about the silence. She said it was when we reminded the galaxy that being polite is a choice, not a weakness. What did she mean? Minseo smiled. She had been asked this question many times. It means that for a long time, we chose to be kind and diplomatic. We chose to talk instead of fight. But the other species mistook our choice for inability. They thought we were weak. So we had to show them the difference. Are we still polite now? We are when they are. That's the important lesson, Junho. We're not cruel or aggressive by nature. But we won't be victims either. We offer friendship to those who treat us fairly. To those who don't, we offer nothing but consequences. The child thought about this for a moment, then nodded. I understand. On Earth, in a secure command center buried deep underground, Admiral Hyunwoo Nam reviewed the latest reports. The galaxy was stable. Human colonies were thriving. The new council was actually functioning fairly. Everything was going according to plan. But the stealth reconnaissance network never stopped. Human intelligence agents never stopped gathering information. The research programs developing new technologies never paused. Because Hyunwoo, like all humans who had lived through the humiliation and the silence, understood something fundamental. Peace was maintained not by good intentions, but by the certain knowledge of what would happen if it was broken. Humanity had chosen to be part of the galactic community again. But this time, they were part of it on their own terms.